In 1631, the Pope of Rome signed a legal document about a woman he had never put on trial. The document called her a heretic, a schismatic, an obstinate rebel against the Holy Church. It ordered her arrested. It ordered everything she had built erased, not reformed, not corrected. The word used was extinguished. Here is what she had actually done to deserve that word. She opened schools. She taught girls to read Latin. She let women elect their own leaders instead of answering to a man appointed over them. That was the entire crime. This is the story of what Rome does to a woman who tries to build something too far ahead of what it's ready to allow, and what happens 300 years later when it turns out she was right. Yorkshire, 1585. Being Catholic here isn't a private matter of conscience. It's a crime with a sentence attached. Mary Ward is born into a family that has already paid that sentence. Her own grandmother spent 14 years in prison rather than renounce her faith. Two of her uncles will later be executed as conspirators in the Gunpowder Plot, the failed attempt to blow up the English Parliament that every schoolchild in Britain still learns about. This is the house Mary grows up in. Priests hidden behind false walls. Mass said in whispers. A single wrong word to a single wrong neighbor and someone doesn't come home. She learns, before she has language for it, a lesson most people never have to learn at all. That devotion and survival can be the exact same skill. That a woman holding a household together while the men around her are imprisoned or executed is not a background detail in a man's story of faith. It is its own form of faith. She is going to spend the rest of her life trying to build an institution around that idea. Rome is going to spend just as long trying to stop her. At 15, in the home of a Yorkshire family she is staying with, Mary Ward first feels it, a pull toward religious life so strong that, by her own account, she can't stop thinking about it. She sits alone for hours listening to an old Catholic woman tell stories about religious women, and something in her settles. This is who she's supposed to be. At 21, she acts on it. She becomes a nun, joining the Pauclaires, a contemplative order built around enclosed walls and silence, around a grille separating her from the outside world for the rest of her life. By the standards of 1606, there is no more devout choice available to a woman. She leaves because, in the silence she was supposed to disappear into, she keeps hearing the same thing over and over in prayer, not a doubt, a conviction that she is not meant to be hidden, that whatever God wants from her requires her to be out in the world, not withdrawn from it. That is a genuinely terrifying thing to believe about yourself in 1609. Not because it's forbidden, nothing forbids private conviction, because acting on it means placing your own inner certainty above every visible structure the church has built to tell a woman what a holy life is supposed to look like. Every confessor she has ever had, every convent she has ever known, every woman she has ever watched take vows. All of it says, enclosure is holiness for a woman, and she is about to spend the rest of her life betting that she heard God correctly, and everyone around her did not. On the 2nd of May, 1609, the feast of Saint Athanasius, the conviction crystallizes into something specific. She becomes certain God is asking some other thing of her, not contemplation, something active, something unbuilt, something no woman has been permitted to construct before. She doesn't frame it as rebellion, she never will. She frames it, her whole life, as obedience, just not to the people who expect to be obeyed. She watches the Jesuits move through Europe, unenclosed, mobile, founding schools, answering to Rome directly, instead of a local bishop, and she asks a question that, as far as anyone can tell, no woman had been permitted to ask out loud before her. Why not us? Not, why can't I be exceptional? Why not us, plural? She isn't asking for a personal exemption. She's already convinced at 24 of something she'll spend her whole life trying to make the church believe too. There is no such difference between men and women, that women may not do great things. She decides to be the first, not because she wants to be first, because someone has to be, and she has run out of ways to talk herself out of believing it's her. In 1609, Mary Ward found something that has no name yet, because nothing like it exists. A community of women who will not be cloistered, who will travel, who will teach girls to read in a century that mostly doesn't think girls need to, who will elect their own leaders, instead of answering to a male superior in every decision. They become known as the English ladies. Within 2 decades, they have opened schools across Flanders, Bavaria, Austria, and Italy. In Cologne, Trier, Munich, Vienna, Rome, Naples, educating hundreds of girls in Latin, philosophy, theology, rhetoric. Local nobility send their daughters. Local bishops send their approval. It works. That is precisely the problem. And Mary Ward, at the height of it, watching young women arrive one after another, drawn by a life that didn't exist a decade earlier, says something to her companions in 1617 that she means completely literally. I hope in God it will be seen that women in time to come will do much. She isn't speaking as a founder congratulating herself. She is speaking as a woman who believes she has only opened a door, and that what comes through it afterward will be bigger than anything she personally built. She has no idea yet how directly Rome is about to try to prove her wrong. The word starts as an insult, spoken by clergy who find the comparison absurd, even offensive. Women who move like Jesuits, women who answer to Rome and not to the men supposed to govern them locally. Her opponents have other names for her community too, calling them galloping girls. Wandering gossips, mocking the simple fact that her sisters walk the streets unaccompanied by a man, something considered scandalous in itself. The Council of Trent, decades earlier, had settled the matter as far as the church was concerned. Religious women live enclosed. That is not a guideline. It is doctrine. Mary Ward is not attacking doctrine. She doesn't believe she is disobeying it. She believes she is answering a call the doctrine hasn't caught up to yet. But intention and reception are different things, and Rome does not receive her gently. A disgruntled former member leaves the community and spreads accusations against her. Powerful churchmen in Rome, resentful of her success, complain about her constantly and privately to the Pope. The word used more and more is not irregular. It is dangerous, a risk, they insist, given how fragile the female mind and moral character are believed to be. (1631) Pope Urban VIII signs the Bull of Suppression Pastoralis Romani Pontificis. Read the actual language, because the language is the point. It doesn't say Mary Ward's institute needs correction. It says the institute is to be suppressed, extinct, uprooted and abolished, total, not partial, permanent, not provisional. And it doesn't stop at the institution. It names her personally in an official document bearing the seal of the Pope, Mary Ward, a woman who has spent over 20 years building schools for girls across Catholic Europe, is declared a heretic, a schismatic, and obstinate rebel against Holy Church. She is arrested by the Inquisition, so ill at the time by some accounts that she can barely walk. She is taken not to a prison in the criminal sense, but somewhere that manages to be worse in its own quiet way. A poor Clare convent in Munich, the Anger Cloister, the very kind of enclosed, contemplative life she had once tried and left 25 years earlier because it wasn't her calling and now becomes her cell instead. The room is small, filthy, cold, with barely any light or air. She is forbidden to speak to the nuns living around her, denied even the companionship of other women, which had been so central to everything she'd built. She is forbidden writing materials too, no pen, no ink, no paper of her own. The church that once let her walk across the Alps to petition a pope now will not let her hold a pen. Her health, never strong, starts failing further in that cell. And this is where it gets interesting, because Mary Ward does not simply endure this, she works around it. Food parcels are allowed in, laundry is allowed out, and somewhere in that narrow permission she finds her instrument, lemon juice used as invisible ink on the paper wrapping her food, readable only when held close to a flame. Using nothing but citrus and the packaging around her own meals, she smuggles out letters to the handful of companions still loyal to her, coordinating, encouraging, refusing to let the network she had spent over 2 decades building simply dissolve into silence just because she'd been silenced. 23 of those letters survive today. In them, a woman the Catholic Church had just formally declared a heretic writes in her own hand in lemon juice, "Be merry and doubt not our Master." Not despair, not bitterness, but a woman under total institutional condemnation, still choosing those words because the only tool her jailers forgot to take from her was her own conviction. Eventually, she is taken to Rome, though not for the trial the bull seemed to promise, because there is no trial. Instead, she is granted something else, a personal audience with the Pope who signed the document condemning her. She throws herself at his feet and says the only sentence she has left, that she neither is nor has ever been a heretic. Urban VIII's response is recorded. "We believe it," he says. "We believe it." He believes her. He says so to her face. He does not revoke the bull. That's the detail worth sitting with. The Pope of the Catholic Church personally tells Mary Ward he does not believe she is a heretic, and then he leaves the official document calling her one fully in force. Belief and policy are allowed to contradict each other completely. It is her life, not his conscience, that absorbs the cost. She remains under Inquisition authority for years afterward, required to stay in Rome without permission to leave. She is not imprisoned again, but she isn't free either. She is watched, restricted, permitted to exist, but not permitted to rebuild. Mary Ward is eventually allowed to leave Rome, traveling for her failing health, eventually making it back to England in 1639, into a country now tearing itself apart in civil war. She settles in Yorkshire, the county she was born in, with the handful of companions who never left her. She dies there on the 30th of January 1645 at 60 years old. Her institute, on paper, no longer exists. It was extinguished by papal decree 14 years earlier. But something she built refuses to fully disappear. In Munich, in Rome, in London, small groups of her former companions keep living together quietly, not as an official religious order anymore, just as laywomen sharing a household and a purpose, because the shape of the thing survives even after the name has been erased. And here is the detail that tells you exactly how thoroughly she was pushed out of her own legacy when the church finally does grant official approval to what she built in 1877. More than 2 centuries after her death, it isn't done in her name. Her own sisters are not permitted to name her as their founder. That permission to simply say out loud that Mary Ward started this doesn't arrive until 1909. 278 years after a pope called her a heretic to her face and admitted he didn't believe it. She built something that outlived the century that tried to erase it, and for most of that time, it wasn't even allowed to say her name. In 1951, Pope Pius XII stood in front of the World Congress of the Lay Apostolate and called Mary Ward that incomparable woman whom in the darkest and bloodiest of times Catholic England gave to the Church. There is no mention of heresy, no mention of schism. Only 3 centuries that had quietly finished the argument Urban VIII refused to have out loud. And there's one more detail, easy to miss, that closes this better than any summary could. Mary Ward always insisted her community should carry only one name, the name of Jesus, not her own, not for her, but for him. It took until 2003, 372 years after the bull that called her a rebel, for one branch of what she started to finally be permitted to take that name, the Congregation of Jesus. She asked Rome for that name once, in the middle of the century that tried to erase her. Rome said no for 372 years, and then, quietly, without much ceremony, said yes.